Free agency is such an exciting time of the year, Rube. There's it kind of goes all day and almost all night at this point.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the draft, you know when it's going to start and end, and the draft is great. It's fun, but this is like the Wild West. I mean, stuff could break at 2 a.m. I'm waiting for our first middle of the night. And we've done post game, late game, middle of the night sort of podcast, but looking forward to our first free agency 3 a.m. podcast. Just get out of bed, talk about the newest, safety that they signed.
You know what's funny? So my mom's birthday is March 13th.
Okay.
And it always falls around free agency. And I always have to apologize because I make plans to have dinner with my parents and then they always fall through. I'm going to try tonight. So that's when the Eagles are going to make a bunch of moves.
As soon as Howie knows that you're going out to dinner,
all bets are off.
He's guaranteed. He's like, all right, who can we just sign and we just cut him tomorrow?
Pretty much. We should mention this is the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We have a bunch to talk about. There's a chance that, like always, this could be outdated by the time you hear it. We take those chances because we want to talk about some of the stuff that has happened because the Eagles have signed some new players.
Yeah, no blockbuster moves, but certainly an interesting day for the Eagles.
Yeah, an interesting day and one move that happened after our podcast on Monday afternoon that we'll get to. I think we'll start in reverse chronological order here with DeVante Parker, the veteran wide receiver. It's a 1-year deal for him. He hasn't even technically been released by the Patriots, but apparently they gave him the opportunity to look for a new job. They're going to release him. He comes here on a 1-year deal. It's basically a veteran minimum deal. He has some offsets in his previous contract, so he's still getting paid this year, not really by the Eagles.
Yeah, he'll be paid more by the Patriots than by the Eagles. It's a no-risk move, nothing to lose type of move. Look, he's had a really disappointing career. He had the one big year in Miami in 2019, like 1,200 yards. But other than that, it's been for the 14th pick, I think he was in 2015. It's been not great. Now, look, he hasn't really had great quarterbacks. I mean, he's had Jay Cutler and Ryan Fitzpatrick and Ryan Tannehill, good quarterbacks. In New England, it was Bailey Zappi's throwing him the football. So there's that. But he just hasn't panned out. But what the Eagles are looking for isn't a starter, and he's been a starter. He's been a disappointing starter most of his career. You bring him in here, and you just see where he fits in. And if he can help you, get him into mini camps and training camp. And I've got Twitter just blowing up because this means they're not drafting a receiver. It doesn't mean that. This has no effect on anything else that's going to happen. This is not a long-term deal. He might not even make the team. It's a no-risk move that could pay off if he can play a little bit and be a third receiver, a fourth receiver, anything. So people need to understand what this move is, how much it costs, which is basically nothing, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember. I don't think this prohibits them in any way from continuing to upgrade at receiver. I think if that was the case, I would understand the outrage, or not outrage. I'd understand some of the hand wringing because I don't know if he's good enough at this point in his career to be that. We've always talked all off season about they need that fifth skill guy on offense, and I don't know if he's good enough to be that at this point in his career. So as long as it doesn't prohibit them from going out and either signing someone or drafting someone or trading for someone to be that player, I think it's okay.
Yeah, and look, everyone wanted them to sign DeVante, and they did.
But you've been sitting on that joke since the move?
No, it just struck me just now.
How do you feel about having two different DeVantes with two different spellings?
Confused. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure I've just spelled both of them wrong.
Yeah, you're gonna have the wrong DeVante. You're gonna be calling Bryce Huff, Josh Huff.
I've already done that.
Saquon Barkley, Matt Barkley.
I've already done that.
That one's going to be one we can avoid. The others are going to be tougher.
Matt Barkley, great Eagle. So yeah, just keep this in perspective. That's the important thing. And I think the odds that he actually ends up helping this team are pretty slim, honestly.
If he slots in at wide receiver 4, I like that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if they find, so you have wide receiver 1 and 2, we know who they are, AJ and DeVante Smith. Gosh, that's going to be annoying in itself. If wide receiver 3 is still out there and they have yet to find him, that's fine. Wide receiver 4, DeVante Parker, wide receiver 5, and punt returner Brent Covey, that could be okay.
Yeah.
Depending on who the 3 is.
Yeah. And I mean, this could end up being like a Rashad Penny move where you just keep him around in case somebody gets hurt. And if you need him, you use him. If not, he just kind of, sits there, but you have him and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Now, he's not, for a lot of reasons, he's not the ideal wide receiver 3. And one of those is he's not a great fit in the slot, doesn't play very much there. He's taken some snaps there, but he's been predominantly an outside receiver in his career. And I know that both A.J. Brown and DeVante Smith can play inside a little bit, but for the most part, we think those guys are going to be outside, and whoever the wide receiver 3 is going to play inside. Now they'll move him around, and I think DeVante in particular has a lot of skills that I like. DeVante Smith in particular has a lot of skills that I like inside, but I still think most of his snaps come outside.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But again, I don't see DeVante Parker playing a whole ton of snaps either. So it gives you a little flexibility to move some guys around. We're getting really ahead of ourselves because I would say he's not even – I think he's probably less than a 50% chance he even makes the team.
Okay.
But, we'll see. I mean, he'll be certainly – it's fun watching those type of guys, man. I remember – you think about all the, old washed-up receivers the Eagles have signed. I remember Mark Duper coming into training camp, who had been a great player with Miami. Mark Duper, they brought in Carlos Carson, they brought in James Lofton, Art Monk, all these guys. And I guess Lofton was okay. Art Monk had a very short stay here. He got hurt. Pride of White Plains High School, my former teammate in track. But it's fun watching these guys. They, in camp, you can see pretty quickly if there's anything left there. And I think we'll get a pretty good sense early on in camp what they have in DeVante Parker.
Yeah, they get younger because he's not as old as Julio.
That's fair.
I've been sitting on that joke since they made
That's a good one.
The deal. I waited a little longer to unleash it on you.
I wonder if Julio's going to retire, right?
I don't know.
I mean, I'd rather have Julio than DeVante Parker.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd rather have either of them than Quez Watkins. I'll say that.
Curious to see what happens with Quez. I know we're off topic with him, but he was a guy who had some potential, showed some flashes early in his career. I think someone will give him a chance to come into a camp, right?
Oh, I think so. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they see traits, and sometimes that change of scenery really helps a guy. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the guy's just not that good. Matt Collins has been okay. He's been better since he left here. Guys like that. Jalen Reagor has been better. It's a pretty low bar. I can't think of anyone else at that position, that is. But yeah, it's an interesting move. And again, there's no commitment. There's no cap worries. Just, bring the guy in and see what he can do.
Yeah, I think sometimes some deals come out on the first or second day of free agency and they get lumped in with the big deals, and they're not the big deals. We'll get the Zack Baun. Like, he's a day one free agency signing. He's not a day one of free agency player. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. And sometimes these guys just end up on the first couple of days because they're out there and you might as well, or they kind of fit a mold of what you want, but it doesn't mean that they're integral to the team. Like, Justin Simmons is still out there. Doesn't mean that they prioritize DeVante Parker over a potential starting safety.
Right. And it's not like Howie's sitting at his desk saying we're going to go from most important to least important. It doesn't work that way. If the number works out, you like Matt Hennessy, he likes your number, you sign him or you agree to terms. So, I mean, they've signed some guys pretty late in the free agency period over the years. And with Howie, I mean, he's going to wait on guys. He's going to wait till their price comes down. The longer you wait, the more their price comes down. Now, maybe you could lose him, but he's not going to overpay. And he's pretty good at this. He's really good at this. So it's not who makes the earliest splash. And they've done that. They've made a splash. It's who helps their team the most.
I'd qualify both of their big moves on Monday as splashes.
I would agree with that.
All right. How you mentioned him a second ago. How about Matt Hennessy, offensive lineman, Temple offensive lineman, former third-round pick, has been in the league now for 4 years, missed all of last season with a knee injury. We talked about the potential of them beefing up the depth on the interior of their line. To me, it was kind of like a sneaky need for them, and they do that with Hennessy.
We just talked about that. Maybe, I don't know if it was yesterday or it's all kind of a blur to me, but we just talked about it. Hennessy from Don Bosco Prep in Ramsey, North Jersey, grew up in New York State, went to high school across the border. Ramsey's right on the state border, just north in Rockland County. Don Bosco is just south of the state border in Bergen County. You know who else?
Pay a toll every day?
There's no toll. There's just a bus. Okay. It's like you don't have tolls at the state border unless there's a bridge. You just go through the neighborhood and you're in New Jersey. And there's a funny story. I'm not gonna get into it, but there's a funny story about how Sarah Baker and I were going to a concert right over the border, and we went across the border like 20 times in one day from New York to New Jersey, and we took photos of the signs saying "Entering New York and New Jersey" at each juncture. But I'm not going to get into that. But Tommy DeVito went to Don Bosco, so a lot of great players came out of there. Jabril Peppers, he went there.
Okay.
So, yeah. I think it is. He's got, he played mostly center. He started every game at center in 22. In 21, I'm sorry, 21. He played some left guard, mostly center, but played some left guard. So he's got some versatility. And with Kelsey retiring, like you got to start thinking about, Sua, even if they bring back Sua and Driscoll, they're not centers. So you got to think about who's going to back up center. You'd rather have a capable guy who's played the position before who can come in than start moving guards around to center and, trying to fit, you don't want to, the last thing you want to do is move Landon from left guard if he's there to center in the middle of a game, middle of a, whatever. So I think he's a solid guy. Better run blocker than pass blocker based on his analytics, but certainly an underrated need, like you said, and a guy who is going to have every opportunity to make the team and be that backup inside guy.
Yeah, having someone who can play center is big because it gives some insurance for Cam Jurgens. And look, we'll see how Tyler Steen performs at right guard or if they find another player. I think it's very much on the table. They draft an offensive lineman relatively high and are able to maybe plug and play him if Steen doesn't work out. But
how high?
First round.
No. You think?
Offensive lineman?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's very much a possibility.
Okay.
You don't?
I think it's a possibility. I'm not as locked into it as you seem to be. What percentage do you think chance there is of being an O-lineman?
I haven't put thought into that. I think there's a few positions that make sense. I think
I don't put thought into any of this.
It shows because offensive line is where they invest. And I could see them drafting a tackle guard, like a tackle with guard flexibility who, they might look at a player like this is Lane Johnson's future replacement, but he can be a guard in the interim. And that player competes with Tyler Steen and wins that job.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I just don't think it's the most likely thing they're going to do.
I think it's one of the most likely things they would do.
Okay.
Based on their history, based on everything they've ever done in there.
I mean, they've taken a lot more. We were just talking about there's a lot more defensive linemen. A lot more. I think it's 10 of the last 13 linemen have been 10 of the 13 first round linemen have been defensive linemen. Now they're, and you're losing Fletch, and BG probably won't play that much, and you don't know about Nolan. So I would say I think there's more of a chance it'll be defense. But look, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the draft. I wouldn't be opposed to drafting an O-lineman.
It would be unpopular.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a chance that that guy doesn't play as a rookie, which is, and look, I think there's we are so far off what we're supposed to be talking about, but I think there's a legit criticism to that sometimes, because you have a player on a rookie contract for a finite period of time, whether it's 4 or 5 years with the option. And I think there's an argument to be made that if you're not maximizing that time where they're not getting paid a lot, it might not always be the best allocation of resources.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think, in almost every case, you want your first round pick to start. Obviously, Nolan not only didn't start, he barely played, and he was very late first round pick, but still, if they pick at 22, you want that guy starting. But we'll see. He might end up starting. He could be your right guard. Who knows?
Matt Hennessy.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because we talked about maybe him competing for the right guard spot. That's the one spot on the interior he has not played in the NFL. He's only played center and left guard. So it sounds easy to flip sides of the center, but it isn't always.
No. It's like, have you ever done a book report and start trying to write with your left hand instead of your right hand?
I have never done that.
Sorry, Andre. Didn't mean to do that. But everybody talks about it. Jack Driscoll talked about it last year, just how different it is trying to think left-handed instead of right-handed. But it's one thing to do it, if you have a training camp, and I'm guessing they'll give him some right guard reps, I would think. If we'll see how it goes. The whole interior of the O-line is really intriguing to me, because obviously you're losing a Hall of Famer in there, but there's definitely some questions there. Hennessy is the beginning of the answer to that. And
I think in a lot of ways he's a more valuable backup than Sua Opeta, just because of the position flexibility. Sua's been good, but he's really just a guard-only backup.
Right.
And if it came down to re-signing Sua, which I think would have made sense, and maybe that's still a possibility,
sure,
as long as it doesn't cost a lot. But having a guy who can play both positions on the interior is just more valuable. And Hennessy has more experience than Sua.
Yeah, he does. A little bit more. Sua started some games. Hennessy started, 23, 24. Sua's probably started about 12. So, yeah, I think the position versatility is the biggest thing. And, look, it could be where, if you're Howie, you're like, we gotta get somebody in there. And Sua's like, well, I want to see what's out there for me. You have a guy who's available who you can sign. Yeah, go do it. And I think if Sua's price is manageable, there's no reason not to bring him back. You need more than one, backup, and they have Steen, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't think this precludes Sua from coming back. Probably precludes Sua and Driscoll from both coming back.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
Probably.
Driscoll's a valuable backup too, because he has tackle and guard.
Yeah.
And they kind of view him more as a tackle. Although, I mean, you can argue he hasn't played very well recently when they've asked him to.
Right.
Although my thing with Driscoll is always they plug him in for Lane Johnson and then run the offense as if Lane Johnson is out there, which is not right.
Yeah, they don't help out Driscoll because they don't help out Lane. So let's just do the same thing.
Yeah, it doesn't always make sense.
No.
How about Zack Baun? We'll move on a little bit to him. He was actually an agreement on Monday from the Saints. The Eagles love their Saints defensive players. Interesting player. He's listed as a linebacker. He's kind of a tweener position. Early on in his career, the Saints really tried to play him as an off-ball backer, and it wasn't the right spot for him. Once they let him get up on the line a little bit and rush the passer, he showed a little something. So I think that makes the most sense for his role here, kind of that Sam linebacker, edge rusher type.
Yeah, and he's historically been a really good special teamer, so you start there. he could really help you out there. And yeah, situationally, if you can get to the quarterback, and he's not a guy who's played a lot, but the analytics are pretty good with him with getting pressure. So another kind of low risk. It's not a no risk move, but a low risk move, and a guy who, at the very least, if he makes the team, is going to help you on special teams, which they could always use. So again, he's not a guy that's going to change the franchise. It's not a blockbuster move, but these are the kind of moves that you have to make when you're trying to rebuild a team like how he's doing. They're not all going to be flashy. And sometimes they're just, when you have 53 guys, they're not all going to be stars. Sometimes you need a guy like this, and we'll see. But he's got some ability.
Yeah, definitely rushing the passer. It didn't seem, from what I've read, the Saints fans really wanted to see more of him.
Yeah.
But the Saints were hesitant to give him more snaps, which is, notable. But also, I don't think he fits the mold of, you think the Saints edge rushers, and the first guy that comes to your head is Cam Jordan, who's really big, and he's not like that outside linebacker rusher type.
Right.
So we'll see about him. Now, the Eagles are probably going to list him as a linebacker. If he plays off the ball, I think that's not good. I would assume he's not one of their answers at off-ball linebacker. I think that would be
a huge mistake. I don't think that's the case.
I don't either. Now, it's tough to know exactly, but I don't think that's the case either. If it is, no, because the Saints tried that. Right.
No, and that's not what he is, and how he knows that. And again, people on Twitter are all upset because this is how they're addressing linebacker. No,
it better not be.
Who knows? Maybe Howie thinks this guy's going to be the next LT, but I'm guessing that's not the case. It would be nice to be able to talk to Howie at this point, but no.
Yeah. That's all I have on the new guys. Do you want to take a little break, and then we'll talk about some of the extensions? We'll talk about Landon Dickerson and your Saquon Barkley column on the other side?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All right, Rube. We have some other stuff to talk about, of course. I'm going to switch up the order here. I think I want to talk about the punter and the long snapper first.
Okay.
Can we do that? I've been waiting.
Let me get my notes back in order here. Okay, I'm good now.
Yeah, I'm changing up our order because the Eagles signed two of their specialists back today. Braden Mann gets a 2-year deal, Rick Lovato a 1-year deal. They keep the band together, which I think is important. It's not the sexiest moves, right? We're talking about a punter and a long snapper, but heck, if there was one thing that worked for this team in 2023, it was special teams, and now the 3 specialists returned together.
Yeah, and Jake Elliott is thrilled that both these guys are coming back. Those 3 make a pretty good team. Rick Lovato's been here since early in the 2016 season. Never missed a game. I think he's got the 7th. I actually figured this out. He's got the 7th longest streak of consecutive games played in the league, and it'll become the 6th longest on opening day because Jason Kelsey's streak will end. It might become the 5th. I don't know. But in any case, Lovato's really solid. He made the Pro Bowl in 2019. Braden Mann, I was really impressed with him last year. His first 3 games were not good, and we're starting to think just bring in the next guy. He had replaced Aaron Siposs after 2 games. But after that, he was really solid, and he just got better and better. Finished the season with 3 straight games with an average over 50 yards, which has never been done in Eagles history, believe it or not. And he broke Cameron Johnston's team records for highest net and highest gross average. He was one of the top 4 or 5 punters in both in the league. And he did it in bad conditions, Northeast, outdoor stadiums, rain, wind, snow, maybe not snow, but rain and wind. It's not an easy place to punt, certainly. The Link or MetLife, any Northeast stadium, Washington. So I was impressed with him. And, I think he's a really underrated, important move to bring him back because they had trouble. And I don't even remember the name of the guy they brought in, Ty Zentner, in training camp. So they were trying to upgrade and they just couldn't do it. So they brought Siposs back for the start of the season and just wasn't going well. And Braden Mann was on the street. He was with the Jets for a few years. And what a find. There were like 3 guys on the team who were playing well by the end of the year. Jake Elliott, Rick Lovato, and Braden Mann might be it. Was anyone else play Fletch and Kelsey? BG, Lane probably.
According to Howie, Nolan played really well in that playoff game.
He did. He did. And Zach Cunningham, you guys might think, but there weren't a lot of them. So, I was really impressed. And his career ratio between touchbacks inside the 20s is really, really good. He's just a good player. So an underrated, important move. He was, he could have signed anywhere. So big to bring him back.
Sure. Hey, Rube, I'm going to take a phone call real quick. Can you let the people know about Rick Lovato's advanced stats a little bit?
Yeah. Rick Lovato's advanced stats, I think he had a 3.6 grade on spiral velocity. He ranked really high in spiral velocity. Spiral velocity it was the highest by an Eagles long snapper since Mike Bartram had a 3.7 back in 2005. And it's interesting, though, in all seriousness, I don't know what the hell Dave's doing, but Eagles have only had 3 long snappers since, what year did Bartram get here? 2000? It's been Bartram, Dornbos, and Rick Lovato, and they've all made a Pro Bowl. So Howie's on a roll with the long snappers. Although I guess Bartram was here before Howie, but it's been. I don't think any team in the league has had that kind of run with long snappers. Are you back with the show now?
I'm back. Yeah. Thanks for handling that.
Pizza or something?
I was talking to someone else about Rick Lovato. So
okay.
Yeah, he's back. One of a few Super Bowl Eagles left.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the final Super Bowl Eagle on the roster?
I'm going to say Jake Elliott.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Yeah, who's left? BG, Lane, Lovato, obviously Elliott. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Wow. Super Bowl win we're talking about. There's more
sure. Yeah.
From the other Super Bowl.
Super Bowl 52 season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a lot.
Lovato's got a chance, though.
He's got a chance.
Because you have to actually pay Jake Elliott. Which the Eagles have done, but
and they're not going to. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where they lose him. Bengals lost him.
Yeah, and sometimes kickers change. Like, I feel pretty confident Rick Lovato's long snapping talent is never going to vanish.
I don't know. He's getting up to that point where spiral velocity starts to go.
We're joking about it, but it is a big move, and I think Braden Mann was like one of the pleasant surprises of last year. It was a bad spot for the Eagles to be in with Aaron Siposs. I thought he would get better, and he just didn't. He got worse.
Yeah, he did. And I think Braden Mann's the Eagles' first non-Australian punter because their last 2 were Cameron Johnston and Aaron Siposs. So Cameron
Johnston just got paid again too.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So he's their first non-Australian punter since Donnie Jones. Unless you include Brett Kern, but we're not going to do that.
Let's not do that.
Let's please change the subject.
All right, I think we're good on the specials.
There's 6 people still listening.
Rick Lovato, thanks for staying tuned here. I know you appreciated the advanced stats. Landon Dickerson held a press conference on Tuesday. Actually, kind of a good press conference for Landon. We learned a little bit.
Yeah.
Talked honestly about some things. It's a big deal for Dickerson. $84 million over 4 years, top of the guard market. And he's not the best guard in the NFL yet. There's a potential for him to be that. He's not there yet.
No, he's close. He's pretty close. Do you want to share and he was asked what he wanted to do with his money?
Yeah, he said he's thinking about buying a new lawnmower.
And he's serious. Like, he wasn't joking. I mean, that's like.
No, he's very serious. He wants the riding mower, 0 turn. So it got me thinking and doing a little research. I went on the Home Depot website to try to find out, like, what's the top of the line riding mower, 0 turn. Give me a guess on how much you think the top of the market lawnmower would cost for the top of the market guard.
Oh man, the most expensive I'm going to say $22,000.
Not that much. At least not on the Home Depot site. Maybe they have a behind the glass section at Home Depot where you go up in there, like a high roller section that none of us know about. But the top model I found is the Cub Cadet Ultima ZTX5 0 turn riding mower, 60-inch cut radius, 24 horsepower Kawasaki twin cylinder engine. It'll run you $85.99.
Oh, okay, that's a bargain.
Yeah, the standard Kohler engine $82.99, but you just got 84 mil. You're getting the upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the top trim, it would probably be closer to 10 grand. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, I'll take one of those.
Do you think if
that'd be a good neighborhood flex, right?
Think I could buy his used mower because I could use one.
Interesting.
And he doesn't have the leverage anymore. I know he gets a new one. I might be able to get it out of him.
I don't know about the ethics of buying a lawnmower from a player.
I don't know. It's never come up before.
You didn't cover that in journalism class. And he was really interesting. He talked about how much he loves playing in Philly, how tough the fans are, and how that brings out the best in him and everybody. And that was really cool to hear. It was
cool. You know what? You can finish. I'm sorry in a second. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. He was just saying, the fans are really tough here, and I like that. And not everybody can play here. And that's kind of been the conversation recently. We heard the Steven Nelson comments and stuff. And then Kelsey kind of alluded to it as well. It does take a special guy to be able to handle that kind of criticism, and maybe not personal, but just at the team and the booing and all that stuff. But if you appreciate that they're passionate fans and they really care and they know their football, and then it's going to drive you to be your best. And that's what he alluded to today.
It struck me while he was saying it that there are some parallels. We've talked before about how tough he is on himself, how honest he is with himself. There are some parallels with how he treats himself, with how the fans sometimes treat players in this city. Just unmitigated honesty. Yeah,
that's true. So, I mean, maybe from that standpoint, it is a good fit. Maybe he can really relate.
Yeah, if they're booing him, he's not going, man, I'm playing well. He's going, yeah, you know what? We stink right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a natural type of fit for him.
It's refreshing. It's a refreshing outlook. It's genuine. He takes it to the extreme, which is kind of funny sometimes. But I admire it and I appreciate it.
I do too. And I think he has a chance to grow into being one of the top guards in the league. He talked a little bit. Holy cow, Alex, is that right? He pulled up another. Maybe this is where he's going with this. This was
low. 22,000 was low now.
This is a $41,000 Toro 0 turn mower. I mean, this is like professional. This is 96-inch 7-gauge turbo force deck. I mean, this is 37 horsepower. Okay. I mean, this is, and it's out of stock too.
I just ordered one.
This is professional stuff. I don't think he's starting a landscaping business.
That's a really sweet looking mower.
Okay, so if you're on the YouTube, here's the photo of that Toro lawnmower. Pretty sweet.
It is sweet. I really want one. I wonder if we can talk them down to like 35 grand.
Like a car dealership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
He'll be ready to walk away.
Let's get it back on the rails.
Yeah, sorry. But Dickerson, he also talked about like the next evolution of his game, and it wasn't physical. It was about the mental side of things, and it kind of coincides with learning from Jason Kelce, just about understanding what the defense is trying to do, relaying signals and calls to the center, which he said whoever's playing center will relay the calls to that person, and also to the quarterback.
Yeah, and he's going to take on. I think a lot of Kelce's role of being that cerebral guy. Certainly, Lane will as well, but I think it seems like he understands that and he embraces it, and I like that.
And sometimes you need it from an interior player in the actual game, because those tackles are out on islands. They got to worry about blocking the fastest guy. Like, they got to worry about blocking 250-pound dudes who run a 4.4. Like, they've got enough on their plate.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was pleasantly surprised at how, I don't know, illuminating he was. Because, look, Landon's not always like that. But I think
you get him away from a season. He did just sign a really big contract. He should be in a good mood.
Yeah. And, he's the kind of guy that you go up to him in the locker room and you can BS with him about, anything but that he's interested in. And then you start asking him about like his play, and like, he's just like, guys suck. It's like, interesting guy. It's a big move to keep him here. And there was never really a chance he was going to leave. And he talked about that. He didn't want to go anywhere else. And he lives here year round.
He joked that he didn't tell Howie that.
Yeah. But he lives here year round. A lot of players don't.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of players who aren't from around here don't. They like to get away. Texas or Florida, California. But he settled down here and doesn't want to leave. If
you signed an $84 million contract, what would be your luxury purchase? Not talking about like, I'm going to invest it. Like, what would be a luxury purchase?
I think it would be a Toro 74090 Z Master 7500 96 zero turn mower 38 HP Kohler EFI.
I don't know why I didn't see that coming.
In all seriousness, what would I buy if I had that kind of money? I mean, I would just load up on keyboard gear. I'd buy a Wurlitzer, a Mellotron. I'd find the most expensive mini Moogs. I would load up on musical gear, keyboards.
Yeah, I'd probably buy a bunch of outdoor gear and I'd spend it on travel.
Yeah,
we're in our lanes there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
A couple former Eagles moving on. Marcus Mariota to the Commanders. Nicholas Morrow to the Bills. I'm sure that'll fix all the Bills' problems. I don't really have much on Morrow. I think we knew he wasn't going to be here. He was in a tough position last year. He was asked to play a role that he shouldn't have been asked to play. They should have had a better option than him. I think if he was a backup playing special teams, he would have been fine. Sure. I think his role was bigger than the player he was.
Yeah. First player since like Clyde Simmons with 3 sacks in a game, or I guess maybe Hugh. But other than that one little brief flurry, it was a tough go for him. And by the end,
Fletcher had 3 in a game.
Yeah, he did a couple times. It just, and I'm really curious to see what Buffalo does with him. Maybe they just want him as a special teamer. I mean, look, he's not a Sean McDermott player, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Mariota, he was never going to stay here. Tanner McKee one step closer to being the backup, but certainly not a lock yet. But I like Tanner McKee, and we'll see what they do there. There'll be another quarterback in camp, obviously, whether it's a guy they draft late or a veteran or a young guy. We'll see, but I don't think certainly no need to have Marcus Mariota here when Tanner McKee's better.
Yeah, and I kind of think even if McKee isn't ready to just be handed the number 2 spot, I think he was encouraging enough that maybe you don't have to pay top of the market backup money like they did last year with Mariota. It was $5 million for him last year. His new deal with Washington is $6 million. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think happens in Washington? Because it's him and Sam Howell. Obviously, they're going to draft a quarterback. Do you think there's a chance Mariota could start the season as their starter?
I think in Washington, anything's possible. They could start the season with Gus Frerotte for all I know. But yeah, I mean, anytime you have a new coach coming in, that young incumbent quarterback who's up and down, it's certainly not a lock. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Mariota's the open day starter.
Since we started doing this pod, Jeremy Chin going to the Commanders, Josie Jewell going to the Panthers.
And Josie Jewell's a guy I know you liked a lot.
Well, I don't know if I liked him. I thought the connection was there.
Okay.
It made sense because of his history with Vic Fangio.
Okay, fair. Yeah, so a couple interesting moves there. But I'm really curious to see how Tanner does in training camp and if he can really take ownership of that spot because, you can always bring in a veteran. There's always guys available on the street. There's the Josh McCown type guys you can add later if you need a veteran quarterback to be your 2. But I'd really like to see Tanner McKee win that job if he can put together another good camp. And he's got a whole year of learning the NFL game, of holding the clipboard, of sitting next to Jalen in the locker room, being in meetings with these guys. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I like his chances.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on Tanner, so
yep.
I think we've let our thoughts be known on Tanner McKee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll shut up then.
What do you think happens next? I still think they need a safety. I think that's very possible. There's been a lot of speculation around Josh Sweat trades. So by the time you listen to this, Josh Sweat might no longer be an Eagle.
Yeah, I think both those things will happen in the next 24 hours. I really liked Xavier McKinney. I thought he would have been a great pickup. He goes to Green Bay. Justin Simmons, obviously, not a typical Howie signing because he's older. I think he's 31 now. But he's been a really consistent player. He made a Pro Bowl last year at 30, 31. He's still really good. We'll see how that goes. Howie's already shown that he's going to go kind of.
He's 30, by the way. I just checked.
He's 30. My bad. When's he? He's 31 in November. Is that right?
31 on November 19th. Write it down in your calendars. Get him a present.
3 days after my birthday, so you have to get my present first. And that Toro zero-turn mower would look awesome.
Look for that one, yeah. I'll get it to
that, Dave. You think about that when November's rolling around. Yeah, I think it would be a heck of a pickup. I don't know how much money. The fact that he's still out there tells you maybe his number's a little high because you got to take into account his age, but the only player in the NFL that's had 3 or more interceptions each of the last 6 years. He's just been a really steady, consistent playmaker for Denver.
Yeah.
He's trying to follow Twitter as he's doing a podcast. It's not going well.
I thought I think Vic Fangio is going to want Justin Simmons. I think it's a position that he values. I think it's a player he values. And I think there's probably some push from him inside the building to get that done.
I would think so. I know a lot of people ask me about the cap numbers until you have the exact breakdown of the annual base salaries and the real number of the signing bonus. You can't figure out cap numbers, cap hits, but they've got enough money. And it looks like they started out with about $42 million. That's what Over the Cap had. You hear different numbers, you see different numbers wherever you look, and it's hard to figure out because contracts are always changing, incentives get added in, there's escalators. But I would think that, they have enough money to make the moves they need to make.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, sure. And everything gets backloaded from the Eagles anyway.
Sure.
So yeah, you end up with pretty minimal cap hits in the first year of a deal. And then the Eagles, more than any other team, really don't care about dead money.
They don't.
Not the way other teams do.
Denver probably doesn't either, but
I think they might care. I don't think they have much of a choice.
I think they do. But yeah, so I wouldn't worry about the cap space. They have the money to do what they want to do.
Yeah, that's all. And I think like CJ Gardner-Johnson is still a possibility. Would it be crazy to sign both of those guys?
No,
because CJ has such flexibility that you can play him at safety, you can play him at nickel. Now he might want to play safety, he might just want to be in one spot, but there's value to a guy like that.
Absolutely. And after what I saw from this defense in that secondary, the second half, and I mean the back seven, I mean I don't think anybody should be safe other than Slay for now, but yeah, got to remake that whole group. And if that means bringing in 2 safeties, 2 veterans, two guys who aren't going to be super cheap, let's do it.
Yeah. You wrote about Saquon Barkley, and
I did.
People are excited about Saquon. I think that, but there are some reasons to worry a little bit about the signing and the investment in a running back. And you wrote about it. I didn't think you went overboard, but you kind of laid out the reasons that, yeah, there is some legitimate concern about this signing.
Yeah, and you know, you can read the piece. It's up on our site, NBC Sports Philadelphia. I just kind of laid out both sides of it and what the risk is to sign a running back to that kind of contract, and just kind of specifically looking at Saquon and his career. You know, and look, I think that coming here is going to, you know, you come to a winning organization. He had 1 winning season. They won 9 games his 1 winning season. I think coming here, this O-line and, you know, this culture is going to help, but it's a risky move, and it's not a reflection on Saquon. It's just what happens to running backs when they get a certain age, a certain number of touches, a certain you know, level of production. They're just not the same guy anymore. So it's a lot of money to take that kind of risk, and I just wrote about that. It doesn't mean, and like, I think he's going to help this team. It's just a matter of how much he helps, how much he costs, and how long he lasts. Yeah.
And I think those are all very realistic questions. And look, I think those are questions the Eagles certainly asked themselves when they made an out of character move like this.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they clearly think there's the benefit outweighs the risk, or they wouldn't have done it.
Exactly.
All right. We got anything else?
Nope.
All right, let's wrap this up and get it posted before it becomes completely obsolete. Sound good? All right, let's tell the people. Please subscribe, rate the podcast wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that like button, subscribe there as well. That's it for Rube. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.